everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a screenwriter's rant on Asking For It, starring Vanessa Hudgens and Ezra Miller. So I think if you're wondering why Ezra Miller lost his damn mind and put out that weird video, I think it's because he's got a movie coming out, and this is it, along with The Flash. I thought it was for The Flash, but maybe it's for this. I don't know. So this is a movie where a group of women get together and they go after men, and I assume Ezra's group, because he's the bad guy in this, and they go after these guys because they're promoting misogyny, and he doesn't like feminism, but they're part of the patriarchy, so they got the protection of the cops. Fresh, awe-inspiring, says the curvy film critic. I don't know about that. This looks like a typical revenge movie. They've made millions of these in the 70s. I'm surprised Luke Hemsworth is in it. I don't know what side these two are on. Maybe they're good guys, maybe they're bad. Clearly Ezra Miller is chewing the scenery, and the girls are like killing guys. I'm not sure why they're wearing masks. Are they doing it to hide their identities, or because they're afraid of the beer virus? I don't know. It's called Asking For It, written and directed by Eamon O'Rourke. And so it's got, with Luke Hemsworth, so he's not in it that long. And David Patrick Kelly. I'm not sure who that is. I've probably seen him before. But Ezra is clearly the bad guy. It looks like, and it's going to be in March 4th in theaters and on digital demand. It's called Asking For It. Look, and it's rated R. Look, you can do a revenge movie. I mean, I Spit on Your Grave is essentially a revenge movie. I get it. But to couch it in this weird feminist way and call it this with this title, Asking For It, it kind of, in my view, devalues women who were put in that position, because it's kind of like you're using the buzzwords and you're just to sell a movie, and that's all this is. It's a fantasy movie. It's a fantasy revenge movie. It kind of like, and the music is kind of inappropriate. It should be kind of a dark music. It's kind of like a fun, bouncy soundtrack. Yeah, the tone is off. This is not fun. Murdering people is not fun. Look, I love the Death Wish movies, or at least the first one. But it's not a fun movie. You don't watch it going, hooray. You watch it going, oh man, and there's been plenty of revenge movies like that. And you'd like to see people get revenge, but when it appears to me the caricatures are so two-dimensional, they're doing like a whole like incel movement thing, like they have all the backing in the world. Like if you made the antagonist realistic, that they're that they're not organized, that they're if you made them realistic, then this movie would hit closer to home. And I get it, it's supposed to be a fun kind of actiony revenge thing, and you need some kind of organization, but it feels, and then the line in the movie, I think this is Vanessa Hudgens, right? She says, "I love to hear men squeal," or something like that, and then they're smashing up a car. It's like, that's pretty negative, right? You reverse the genders in it, and it becomes not good. It becomes pretty evil. So that's how you can tell. It's the sensibilities are all over the place. Because I think the people who wrote this are caught up in their ideology, and they don't care about making a well-balanced movie. Like, I Spit on Your Grave is like a really tough movie to watch, quite frankly. But ultimately, and those characters are pretty two-dimensional too. I guess they poison these guys or something, or spray something on them. And then you've got an evil sheriff or guy in a cowboy hat who helps the Ezra Millers
has the makings of a solid cult favorite. Elizabeth Weissman, The Rap. I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, it's got the wrong sensibility. It's a little too full of itself. Oh, we're gonna show the boys and we're gonna do it too. Like all these movies are like that. All these movies are like that. We're gonna do it better because we're women. That's not the way you want to approach an audience. You want to approach them like, this is a good story. It just happens to be about women who are accosted and they fight back. Like, people can get behind that. They have for literally decades. They've made movies just like this. And you can get behind the protagonist because, oh man, that woman, she got assaulted by those a-holes. And then she gets revenge. And you're like, yes! That's the feeling you want in a movie like this. Not like, well, you kind of like are a-holes. You're presenting your protagonist as kind of like too full of themselves. Anyhow, let's break it down. First act, not really sure because I'm not seeing what I would expect in a movie like this. What I would expect this in a movie would be the protagonist gets assaulted. And then she goes to her friends and her friends are like, this is effed up. We got to get these guys because they're doing it to other women. And then they band together and they go after the men, and then they have problems because it turns out they're tied into a corrupt police department locally, and they have some setbacks, and then they have to kick up their game. They have to get gun training or recruit some more women. They don't have enough, and because they realize they're up against a much bigger foe. And then the men realize that their whole schemes are going to fall apart if these girls keep coming at them. So now they get ready, and then there's a big confrontation in the third act. This one feels like it starts with these girls are already up to going after men who have done stuff, right? So they're already attacking these men. Like, it starts with, at least the trailer does, it starts with Vanessa smashing up a car with her friend. So, okay. And she says this flippant line like, I love to hear men squeal or something. Or cry. I don't know what it is. Like, that's not the vibe you want for the first act. So, if I had to lay out the movie how I think it would go based on that, I would think you basically have a feminist writing this thing. She overplays her hand in the first act. The protagonist, well, you're kind of with them, but they're so unlikable, it's hard to watch the movie because they're so arrogant. And now you have ladies doing it for themselves, so they just, whenever they fight the men, they win. Except at the end where you need like this faux, in the third act, you need some sort of faux, well, we have to save so-and-so, and then one of them like gets overwhelmed, and then finally like the girls have to have this confrontation at the end where they're shooting at people. But there's not one scene of any of the women losing in the trailer. They're just winning. And Ezra Miller like chewing the scenery. Yeah, right. So that I think is going to be the focus. Like, they power. Oh my God, we didn't realize these men have so much power. Because power. Because I read about power in my feminist literature, and power and power and power. No, that's not the way it works. See, you're going to present something that's so unrealistic, people can't get behind your simple revenge movie. That's what I think is going to happen. Ezra Miller doing his, I don't know what he's doing, but now I understand why he did that crazy video. I think he wanted to not be known as that guy, the guy who was in this movie as the king of the incels, because they're worried the incel movement will start quoting him and using little clips of the movie for their own evil purposes. I don't think you really have a danger of that. I don't think this movie's going anywhere. And asking for it, it's the wrong title. It's the wrong title. It really is. Um, it just it's not a good title because it's not it's evil, right? It's a phrase we don't like. I think most people could say, yeah, that's not a good phrase. It doesn't bring forth any good images. So it's kind of a negative image, but it's not presented as a dark movie. It's presented as kind of fun and bouncy, like, oh, these ladies are gonna get it. They're gonna get theirs. It's not. You don't associate that with fun, okay? It should be a darker movie. It should be dark. It shouldn't be Ezra Miller eating up the scenery. It should have been a much more subtle character, like a guy with real power. And typically in the 70s and 80s, you'd have a story in which, you know, the local cops were super corrupt, and they did horrible things on top of that, right? They not only were super corrupt and criminal, they also sexually assaulted women, and then you know, a woman would say, I'm getting revenge for my sexual assault. She didn't even care about any of the other stuff they're doing. But that's why the confrontation builds, because now they're like, you idiot, you assaulted this woman, now she's coming to kill us all. And now she's, at the very least, she's going to ruin our operation. So then they have a reason to have guns and the violence, and all that makes sense. This, you know, again, it's part of the problem I talked about in Hollywoke Hot Take, which was an hour today again. If you base your narrative on a non-reality or a pseudo-reality, you're going to get a movie that is even less reality. Like, you want a certain amount of realism. You want to ground something in reality. In a movie so people can connect with it. But if you're already starting from a narrative that's a couple of degrees removed from reality, and then you make a narrative, you're a few degrees even more off. So now instead of being like 2 degrees off, you're like 15. And that's what this movie feels like to me. So it's called Asking for It. If you want to ask for it, it comes out on March 4th. I'm voting it down because I think Ezra Miller's breakdown was totally astroturfed, partly because of this movie. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Bitchute, Rumble, and Odysee for our more base takes. Hollywoke Hot Take, 55 minutes today, and a news blast. We'll see you later.